you raised the question about the Steelers, and maybe they're in the market for a bridge quarterback, and that Geno Smith is a little pricey to be a bridge quarterback. At what point do we start to address the following hypothesis, that there is actually no such thing as a bridge quarterback in today's NFL? So work with me here, right? We had thought of Baker Mayfield as a bridge quarterback. And then he played well enough to where he stopped being a bridge and he started to be land. Like, he is their quarterback as long as he keeps it going. Something very interesting about Geno Smith is that Geno is 34 and he is the oldest quarterback that we know is going to be a starter next season outside of Matt Stafford. I think Stafford's the one guy that's older than him. We talked a lot about the whole dead generation of quarterbacks. This is where it plays out. So all the guys that people think of as being bridge quarterbacks, none of them ever even start out the whole season. For example, the Jacoby Brissett bridge that people have attempted to construct in many places, he don't even ever make it all the way through the year. Tyrod Taylor, we thought of him as being bridge quarterback. He doesn't get all the way through the season.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo, he was that guy you think of. No, these guys, either you're a starting quarterback or you're not a starting quarterback. And looking for the bridge is never going to work. Well, Sam Darnold, he appears to be Mr. Bridge now.
Yeah. So I think the distinction here, because your point is very good, is do you have a first-round quarterback in the building?
Yes.
If you do, the bridge quarterback doesn't exist. Because the examples that you're laying out are ones where the team had the first or top 10 pick, right? In both cases, Drake May, Herbert, whatever. If you're in a building, if you're a quarterback and you're in a building where there's a first-round quarterback, you're not for long for this world.
Unless he gets hurt.
Unless, yeah. Like JJ McCarthy, right?
Yes.
And then Sam Darnold actually ended up being like a true bridge. The Jets, to me, are the one where like Fields actually is the bridge, because I could be wrong, but I don't think they're going to draft one of the top guys, which I think is smart, by the way, based on my analysis of this draft class. But that's a unique situation. You can't have a young guy in the building, because then you're right. The bridge thing doesn't exist. It's always a lie.
Yeah, you tapped on something interesting, and I've seen what you've said in other places, and I thought it was very interesting that the conversation around Shedeur Sanders is at once illuminating, a little bit uncomfortable, and maybe a little bit accurate.
I've had some clips go out about talking about Shedeur, and I keep being like, I'm just here to talk about the play. I don't know him. I've been watching a lot of his tape. But of course, the reactions both ways, by the way, really have nothing to do with his play for the most part. It's such a curious situation, Bo, because it's both very general and very specific at the same time, right? Like, a lot of the talk around him, the reactions are absolutely inflected by general stereotypes and history and historical things that have just been proven to be true in terms of how we talk about black quarterbacks. But then there's also a very specific thing going on, which is most black quarterbacks aren't Deion Sanders' son.
Right.
And those two things, I think, I wouldn't say they're in conflict, but I think it's hard to have a conversation about him because of that. Or not hard to, but it's getting messy.
Yeah, so using only your eyes, he runs into all the stereotypes, right? And I mean, if you don't watch him play, you just see him walk in, right? He is his father's son. His father, who, this is a great Deion Sanders story, where he got into it with Carlton Fisk once when he was playing when Deion played for the Yankees, because this is young Deion with the Jerry curl. Deion walks in the batter's box, takes his bat, and draws a $sign in the batter's box. And Carlton Fisk, who by this point I think is already in his 40s, rolls his eyes and expresses how he finds that to be distasteful, which, by the way, is a fair point to make, but maybe not necessarily something you need to be saying right now, old white man. But old white man said it out loud, and Deion responded to him that the days of slavery were over. You see what I'm saying? Like, we wind up in these places where like escalating thing goes. So like Shedeur Sanders is the dude that comes and shows everybody his $100,000 watch and all of these things, for example, right? Like these are things that people would expect. It's a second generation pro black quarterback, but nonetheless, what they would expect of black quarterback. But the way he plays, that's not what we're talking about here. This is a game that does not focus on athleticism. It is accuracy. You wish he would get the ball out quicker, but this is a pocket passer absolutely all the way, without particularly, well, without physical gifts. Like, I don't think he has any physical trait that counts as a gift. What you are betting on with him is that he's going to brainiac his way through it. Like, Geno Smith is an interesting comp, but I think Geno Smith has had much more of an arm coming out of school than Shedeur does.
Yeah, no, that you touched on the third thing about this that's so fascinating, which is if you just put out a blind resume of how people are talking about, because these coaches talking about his personality, that's been the subject of controversy, right? Because of what we've been discussing. But if you just ask these coaches about his play, it would sound like they're talking about a white quarterback, right? I mean, to be honest, and I mean in the sense of the stereotypes that we've assigned to the position, because what you've described is absolutely accurate. Accurate being sort of the key word here. His strengths are mental. He plays like a vet. He reads defenses really well. He has seen it all. He doesn't make that many dumb mistakes. He is accurate, but he lacks in physical tools. He is not a particularly great athlete. He does not have extreme arm talent. He does not have a cannon. You don't see a lot of the really difficult NFL throws on tape. So for him to succeed in the league, he has to, and I say this about any quarterback with that kind of skill set, he has to play really, really fast, and he has to throw with a lot of anticipation because of the arm talent being the issue and the question mark. And that's, why I think Cam Ward has really leapfrogged him and distinguished himself as QB1 in this class, which at the beginning of this, it was kind of a question. I don't think it's a question anymore. I have yet to encounter anyone who doesn't have Ward as QB1 now.
No, he can spin it, man.
Yep.
I remember it wasn't that long ago that we had lots of discussions about the way that we all get a little bit too enamored with arm talent when it's time to evaluate a quarterback. They got so many dudes out here now that can spin it. I don't feel like that's really the case anymore. Like, it really does feel like you need that arm. This is a league where you need to have that kind of arm to keep up with what the level of athleticism is that's out here. And you correct me if I'm wrong here, because you know better than me, the evolution of defenses where, because of the way the schemes have changed, where you can now stop the run while also keeping two safeties up there.
Yeah.
There are a lot of throws, it seems to me at least, that are harder to make than they used to be in this league.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think also we see quarterbacks with limited arm talent hit a wall now because defenses are really good at taking away the middle of the field. And I think Tua Tagovailoa is kind of the case study for this, right? You've seen this happen year after year where the offense is lighting the world on fire, perhaps, and then defenses say, all right, cool, throw Jeeb outside the numbers in inclement weather, and he hits a wall. You can win that way. You can, especially if you're paired with a good running game, which he doesn't have, right? But it's very hard to succeed in the NFL, to be a top 15 quarterback if you don't have that kind of arm talent. Cam Ward has it. He absolutely has. He has flaws to his game, no doubt. But to me, when I see like the traits, those are the traits of an NFL starter.
Are you with me on this? Or I'm just like, talk all you want. There's no doubt in my mind he'll be the number one pick for the Tennessee Titans, because he may not be the best quarterback out there, but he's too good for you to not have a quarterback and to let it go.
Yeah, I'm with you now. I wasn't this way at the beginning, because I was at the beginning, like, again, like before the combine, after the Super Bowl, when I started thinking about the draft, I was like, Tennessee, they know that they're not a good situation for a quarterback, and there's two, like, potentially generational players in this draft. Like the way this draft is, there's two players who are just like a lot better, right? Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. You could put Genty in that, but obviously as running back. And I thought,
there you go, hating on the running back. How did I not know that was coming?
Value matters. Myles Garrett just got $40 million a year. You don't want Abdul Carter making a rookie contract relative to the top edge. It's the reason why, it's always going to have that bump. Anyways, and he's a really good player. But I thought Tennessee, because we always have, every year, everybody freaks out when the young quarterbacks don't play well. And we always have this conversation, well, these teams are irresponsible, drafting these young quarterbacks and putting them in bad situations. And there was part of me that was like, Tennessee knows that they got to improve the situation. And then two things happened. I watched more of Cam Ward, talked to folks more about Cam Ward, and I started easing up on the idea that, you could skip this draft, because I do think he has that potential. And I also was reminded, like, that all goes out the window, right? And like, they're not going to sit through another year of crappy quarterback play just because the situation isn't good. And they've also spent a lot to upgrade their offensive line, which that makes me think, all right, they're getting this ready for the young quarterback.
This draft, and I'm not a big draft guy, but I do feel like this one isn't nearly as interesting, though I think the question comes down, and I haven't asked you about this. Are you putting Travis Hunter at wide receiver, or are you putting Travis Hunter at corner?
This is another one where my thinking has changed. Because at first I said corner, and my thinking was, he could be a really, really good wide receiver, but he could be immediately one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. He's also, because of his ball skills, going to have the sort of production that's just rare in this league. Stingley Jr. had similar ball skills. But the more I watched of him, I mean, he's clearly the best wide receiver in this draft too. Like, he is so good. So, like, I watch college football, like, kind of casually. I watch the big games. I watched Colorado when all the hype was going on. And I remember thinking, like, this kid's unreal. I mean, on tape. I mean, he is so special at both of these positions. I know this is a cop-out. I would argue it actually doesn't matter. I think at either of those positions, he has the potential to be one of the best players in the NFL. And if you're the Patriots, sitting where they are in the draft, he's instantly the best wide receiver on your roster. Instantly. You got good corners. Christian Gonzalez, they signed Carlton Davis. I would not blame them for putting him at wide receiver. He to me has the capability of being like a truly special wide receiver in the NFL. He could be a truly special cornerback too. So I actually think it's going to come down to which team takes him and what they need out of him.
So the question that I've had is whether his build, which is a touch slight, I feel like he's going to get broke in half playing wide receiver in a way that is less likely to happen playing corner. Like, I feel like there's a 12-year there's a 12-year type of prime for him as a corner, where I fear there might be like an 8-year type of prime for him as a wide receiver.
I think that teams have gotten really good at scheming wide receivers open, smaller wide receivers open, rather, which is why we're seeing more smaller wide receivers have success in the NFL with motion and putting them inside bunches, putting them in the slot if necessary. They're not just going to be like, hey, Travis, go line up outside and win 1-on-1 versus their best cornerback. But I would also argue he can, because he isn't the biggest dude, but his releases are amazing. He has such an innate understanding of leverage, coverage. This is the crazy thing. When you watch him playing wide receiver, it's obvious he plays corner. And then when you watch him playing corner, it's obvious he plays wide receiver because of the mental side that he brings to this in terms of understanding the opponent. I know it sounds like I'm over gassing this dude up. I don't think it's possible to gas him up too much after watching him. Yeah, he is just that special.
No, everybody that's watched this film, I think I saw somebody. I think it was that poor young fella that told Josh Allen he shouldn't have made that one throw, or he should have thrown it the other way. Yeah, poor guy. But I think he said something to the effect of he saw like one bad play in all the film.
Dude, I just started laughing watching it. Like, it is literally, because I watched the quarterbacks first and I was like, there's stuff. I don't know. I got a lot of questions. And then I put him and Carter on next, because that's the top, it's the question. Carter, very, very good player. Like, there's a lot I like about him. But Hunter made me like giggle. Like, I was kicking my feet up watching it. Like, I mean, I know everybody knows how good he is and whatever. This is hardly going out on a limb here. But it is holy shit film. It is just because rare physical abilities, rare football IQ. Yeah, I cannot wait to watch him in the NFL.
Have you thought about how miserable it must be, though, for all these teams that need a quarterback?
I know, and are going to be. God.
Like, you know how bad it is that they can't even talk themselves into it?
I know.
Like, I was talking to one of my draft guys, and he was just like, and he just said to me explicitly, don't fall for the Jackson Dart. And as I say many times, if a dude like Jackson Dart, if you're not hearing any buzz around him right now, he must really stink. Really stink. Like 15 years ago, he'd have been on the cover. Him, Jackson Dart, and somebody else would have been on the cover with Cam Newton, talking about the hardest decision of all time. They can't talk themselves into this one. That means it ain't there.
That was the thing that really shocked me after the draft was they started hearing the first round buzz on him. Because again, he was one of the guys I watched pretty early. Like, look, he has some tools. He has a good arm. So it's not like I can see an NFL team taking a flyer on him, but like, like we've seen this movie with Lane Kiffin. Like we're watching this offense. It's very schemed up. He is not doing a lot of NFL things. And again, you can project that, but it's all projection and speculation. So I was surprised by that.
Have you gotten around to the Milrow film yet?
Just a little bit. Bit.
I don't think anybody's going to fall for it, but somebody is going to be willing to overlook it just because he's such a physical specimen. But when he came out for the draft and people talked about how crazy it was, I was like, oh, no. What is going to get him drafted is not going to change. He needs to stop putting up bad film to get in the way of that. Big, strong, fast, right? Big, strong, fast. But I'll tell you this, if somebody was willing to take Anthony Richardson in the top 5 and they won't take him until the second round, they are saying a lot about what they think about his actual play.
Yeah. Look, I don't look at Milrow and see like a NFL starter, but I sure as hell would rather take a flyer on that than some of the other guys being talked about as mid-round quarterbacks. I think where he goes, like, there's definitely spots that I think would be too rich, but Cannon and those wheels, like at least I'd rather get him in the building and see if he can be developed further, because some of these other guys, they're such an obvious they're just obviously college quarterbacks to me. This is a bad draft. And again, to go back to what you were saying about Hunter and I think Carter to somewhat of a closely, he's not Hunter. I would feel bad passing on those dudes and taking quarterback. I'd be nervous about it, but again, it's the quarterback position.
Yeah, but like I've been talking about on this show, man, if you ain't got one, you feel like you got to go get one. Yeah, like it's a nagging sensation that you got to do something to alleviate.